Hi guys, this is the Casual Fan. Now Sebastian Vettel is another name that has been added to a rather long shortlist of drivers that McLaren is apparently interested in. Many Vettel fans, they have welcomed this news and feel it would be a step up for the German. But as a die-hard Sebastian Vettel fan that has seen him race since the US Grand Prix 2007, I beg to differ. In my view, once Sebastian Vettel's current contract is done, I don't see him extending his stay in Formula 1. Yeah, you heard that right. I don't see Sebastian Vettel extending his stay in Formula 1 beyond the 2022 Formula 1 season. Why? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about why, at least in my view, and I hope I'm wrong, I feel Vettel retires at the end of the season. Now before we go there, let's answer an even important question that needs to be addressed first. Is Sebastian Vettel still a capable Formula 1 driver? Well, to answer that question, all we need to do is take a look at some of the key statistics from this season. Out of the 11 races, Vettel has raced in 9 of them. Out of these 9 races, I think there has only been one race where Stroll has had the better of him over a race weekend. That's it, just one. Every other weekend, it has been the German. Not only that, Vettel has 15 points to his name as compared to just 3 for Stroll until now. And this should give you some idea of how good Vettel has been this season. Now, having said that, sure, Stroll is not the gold standard of driving in Formula 1 by any means. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he is a Max Verstappen or a Charles Leclerc. But he's not a bad driver either. This is the same driver that has multiple podiums to his name. This is the same driver that scored pole position in a racing point in the rain in the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix. Lance Stroll deserves to be on the Formula 1 grid, and while the hate, it might even be justified to some extent because of his upbringing and because of where he belongs and because of his name. All those things don't factor when you consider him as a driver. And when you look at him as a driver, he's bloody good. And in more ways than one, he deserves his stay in Formula 1. Now, beating Stroll is one thing. Dominating him the way Sebastian Vettel has done this season, it just adds another feather to his cap. To add to this, just look at some of the drives Vettel has had this season. Just take a look at the masterclass in Imola, a race where, if we are fair, Aston Martin was easily the 9th or at best the 8th fastest car on the grid. Or even Monaco, where he scored points, or Baku, where he was sensational to be honest, or Silverstone for that matter, coming from the back of the grid to score points. These are performances of not only a good driver, but a driver that has been performing at a very, very high level. So, to answer the question, is Sebastian Vettel still a capable Formula 1 driver? Yeah, he is. Now with that out of the way, Vettel's future ultimately comes down to his motivation to stay in Formula 1. Now, I think we have to answer this question. Why would a 4-time world champion with more than 50 wins and pole positions to his name want to extend his stay in Formula 1? That is the important question. Ultimately, it comes down to 2 of his most obvious passions right now. The first is his ability to drive a Formula 1 car at a very high level. He wants to compete at the front, and he has repeatedly mentioned that he wants to not only fight for points, he also wants to fight for podiums, wins, and if possible, championships as well. That is the ultimate motivation for him. The second and often not spoken about motivation for Vettel is his newfound love for social activism. I think it's fair to say that he has been very vocal against multiple social issues this season, and he has even appeared on the political talk show Question Hour. Being part of F1 gives Vettel the opportunity to reach out to the masses and spread the message of environmental sustainability. And he does that on a platform that he would not have if he was not a successful Formula 1 driver. When it comes to extending his stay in the sport, This is going to be one of the crucial factors that might need to be kept in mind when he decides his future. And ultimately, these are the two factors that will need to be satisfied if Sebastian Vettel is going to continue in Formula 1. Now, if Vettel does not wish to retire at the end of the season, then there are more or less three options that he could have in front of him. The first option for Vettel is extending his stay with Aston Martin. The team has shown some level of progress, especially from the humble beginnings in the first two races. Although it's fair to say it's not as satisfactory as it needs to be to keep hold of Vettel. There are huge sums of money making their way into the team from the recent Saudi Arabian investment, and that should translate into performance one way or the other. Sebastian Vettel could make a commitment to the team based on the amount of investment that is coming. Plus, to add to it, lest we forget, there aren't many teams on the F1 grid that will allow Sebastian Vettel to continue with his social activism alongside his driving duties. Aston Martin, as a breath of fresh air, it does. And it gives Vettel the motivation to turn up on a race weekend and drive the wheels of the car. If Vettel is looking to stay in Formula 1, then Aston Martin, it could be one of the options that he can take a look. The second option that did open up for Vettel was at McLaren in place of Daniel Ricciardo. Now it's no secret that the Australian is not in the best of places at McLaren. The driver has not performed to the level he's used to and is getting dominated by Lando Norris in the same car. It's well documented now that McLaren is looking at a replacement for the Australian, but has not finalized on anyone. As a former 4-time world champion who is not only marketable but is also performing at a very high level this season, Vettel could just be the perfect replacement for Daniel Ricciardo in the team. Now, this is a slightly left field thought, but by the looks of it, there is a possibility of this materializing if Vettel plays his cards right. Lewis Hamilton's contract with Mercedes expires at the end of the 2023 season. Hamilton will be 39 at the time, and with a highly competitive George Russell breathing down his neck. At that stage, with all the possible records in the bag, will he be willing to strap those boots again and go after it? Especially with a very competitive teammate snapping at the heels. There is surely a possibility that Hamilton retires at the end of the 2023 Formula 1 season. At that point, who does Mercedes have to replace him? If we are honest, there's no particular option that stands out, especially from the Mercedes drivers. At that stage, could Mercedes give it a thought to sign a German, a 4-time world champion, so that his experience supplements the youthful exuberance of George Russell? Well, they might. Vettel could look at a possible 1-year extension at Aston Martin this season and try to place himself in the best possible position to take over from Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Now, I know it seems far-fetched, and to an extent it will need a lot of things to align. But if it ultimately positions Vettel to fight for wins or podiums, it's worth a punt. Now, since we have laid down these possibilities, they do look enticing, I must say. Let's answer one crucial question. How realistic are they? Now, in a way, for Sebastian Vettel to extend his stay at Aston Martin, he would need a lot more convincing. At the current performance level, where Vettel has faced 3 consecutive eliminations in Q1, it's hard to expect him to be happy or satisfied with his performance levels. The bigger issue with extending his stay with Aston Martin is not really the performance level. It is the involvement of the Saudi Arabian government with the team. Vettel has had a somewhat free rein in what he does outside the track. But with the Saudi Arabian government buying a stake in the team, things will surely change. The German's outspoken stance on issues could see those views get directed at his own team owners, and that's not a comfortable situation to be in. With the involvement of the Saudi Arabian government, It more or less signals the end of Vettel's outspoken stance against global issues as long as he is with the team. Countering all of this, why will Vettel extend his stay at Aston Martin when the team cannot even give him a fast car and ultimately imposes restrictions on what he speaks? He won't. The new Saudi money should be great news for Aston Martin, but it almost certainly ends the hopes of Vettel extending his stay with the team. Now, in terms of teams, McLaren is definitely a step up from Aston Martin. But after looking at what Daniel Ricciardo has to go through, will Vettel even be interested in joining McLaren? The team has a certain design philosophy that just does not work with Daniel Ricciardo. That design philosophy has even permeated from the previous regulations to this one. What if Vettel also encounters the same issues? More importantly, McLaren is a team built around Lando Norris as the future. Going into that team, Vettel will not be able to mold car development in the direction he wants. And it is something that is even evident with what happened with Ricciardo. Even if Vettel does overcome this aspect, what if he is not given the same freedom to express himself socially as he does right now? Other than Aston Martin, to be fair, it's hard to see any established teams letting their driver being this vocal in public. And finally, let's be honest, there are close to 8 drivers in contention for that McLaren seat, which just reflects the kind of indecision there is within the team. When it comes to signing a replacement for Ricciardo, the team is not sure. And considering all these ifs and buts, does a move to McLaren even seem realistic? The more you think about it, the less likely it appears that Vettel to McLaren switch could even happen. Come to think of it, if Mercedes were interested in signing a German driver, it would have aggressively pushed for Mick Schumacher when he won the Formula 3 championship. Or even for the 2017 F1 season, the team would not have gone for Valtteri Bottas, but Nico Hülkenberg, a rather popular German driver and someone who was rated very highly across the paddock. Let's be honest, Toto Wolff handles the reins when it comes to the all-important decisions in the team, and that includes driver lineups. He was the manager of Valtteri Bottas, so the Finnish driver got the nod. If Lewis Hamilton retires at the end of the next season, Wolff won't be looking at Vettel. Wolff would be looking at another driver he manages. In all likelihood, Esteban Ocon will take Lewis Hamilton's spot after a rather impressive stint in Alpine. For Vettel, the door to Mercedes just does not look viable at any point, be it the next season or the season after. Now this is what brings me to the conclusion of it all. A conclusion that, to be honest, I am not very happy with, because to be fair, I don't want Vettel to retire. He's performing at a very high level and I hope he gets a better seat and is able to fight for podiums and wins. But there is no realistic or viable option open for Vettel right now. And it does appear that the former 4-time world champion will retire at the end of the 2022 F1 season. I hope I'm wrong, I really do. But by the looks of it, well, it pains me to say, but I don't think Sebastian Vettel will be on the Formula 1 grid next season. So these were my views. What do you guys think? Do you guys think there is an option for Sebastian Vettel next season? Do let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.